program is brought to you by comrades like you. Thank you. Please support this project on Patreon or visit my bookshop. Link in the description. Why does China matter? Hello comrades, welcome to another episode of Red Scare TV. I'm of course your host, Red Scare. And today we're going to be answering a question from Comrade B-Level in a stream that he did not too long ago. In fact, he sent me the link to his video and I watched it. And I'm here to answer a couple questions, a couple musings that he has. And that question is, what role does China play in our current situation? And is talking about China too much holding us back from actually helping the working class? To which I must say, kind of, sort of. It's both sides. On one hand, I think we're talking about China too much instead of actually going out into the masses. However, I do think the investigation of China is a very good thing to do. Now, why is that? And I've created a nice little list right here. And I'm going to answer that. First thing I want to note is something called Xinhua. What's Xinhua? If I'm pronouncing that right, Xinhua was Mao's term for China with the Communist Party in charge. So, for example, if you might catch this when you're reading some of Mao, he will refer to something called New China and Old China. New China being, of course, what I just said, the Communist Party rule of then and present day China, and Old China being the pre-communist era of China. And essentially New China is how Mao wanted to deal with China essentially being a prison of nations, of which both Canada and the United States work as, both as Russia did, according to Stalin, as a prison of nations. So this goes back to something I also believe Charles de Gaulle said, in which he asked, how do you govern a country with 69 flavors of cheese? And to which my answer is New America, or in the sense of Mao, it was New China. Because before Xinhua, or before New China, there was a lot of something called Han chauvinism, or to put it more towards our experience here in America and the various comrades with us, Han supremacy, in which the Han Chinese nationality, which is what you typically think of when you think of someone who is of Chinese origin, you think of them as Han, basically had the say and rule of all of China. So Mao said that we need to end Han chauvinism. In fact, here is me reading a section of Mao speaking on this in 1953. Criticize Han chauvinism, March 16, 1953, by Mao Zedong. In some places, the relations between nationalities are far from normal. For communists, this is an intolerable situation. We must go to the root and criticize the Han chauvinist ideas which exist to a serious degree among many party members and cadres, namely the reactionary ideas of the landlord class and the bourgeoisie, or the ideas characteristics of the Kuomintang, which are manifested in the relations between nationalities. Mistakes in this respect must be corrected at once. Delegations led by comrades who are familiar with our nationality policy and full of sympathy for our minority nationality compatriots still suffering from discrimination should be sent to visit areas where minority nationalities make a serious effort at investigation and study and help the party and government organizations and the localities to discover and solve problems. The visits should not be those of looking at flowers on horseback. Judging from the mass information on hand, the Central Committee holds that whenever there are minority nationalities in the general rule, that there is problems calling for a solution. In some very serious cases, on the surface, all is quiet, but actually there are some serious problems. What has come to light in various places in the last 2 or 3 years shows that Han chauvinism exists almost everywhere. It will be very dangerous if we fail to give timely education and resultly overcome Han chauvinism in the party and among the people. The problem in the relations between nationalities reveals itself in the party and among the people in many places is the existence of Han chauvinism
to a serious degree, not just a matter of its vestiges. In other words, bourgeois ideas dominate the minds of those comrades and people who have had no Marxist education and have not grasped the nationality policy of the Central Committee. Therefore, education must be assiduously carried out so that this problem can be solved step by step. Moreover, the newspaper should publish more articles based on specific facts to criticize Han chauvinism openly and educate the party members and the people.
So essentially, one of the things that we can apply from from the new China experience, from the Xinhua experience, is how do we break down white supremacy, and how do we allow these nations that are entrapped within America to become fully represented without balkanizing this entire country, which the contradictions would only spiral out and be worse and worse if everyone got their own nation. For example, like I said in one video, if Michigan and Ohio had to do separate trading terms, it would probably just lead to petty civil wars, and it would probably be a Balkans incident all around with hyper-nationalism. So how do we create a proletarian country that unifies all these different nationalities, all these different flavors of cheese, if you will, these 69 flavors of cheese that we have in this country, the contradictions of these countries? How do we do away with these contradictions, or how do we deal with these contradictions? And that my answer goes back to New China, or in this case, New America. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that China is kind of on an iffy path with their economics, but their economics are something to look at. Granted, I think the Chinese Communist Party is very right opportunist. They're taking a very Bukharinite line to communism, a very slow way to communism, albeit I would say that the Chinese Communist Party is still communist, albeit right opportunist. However, my point being is we need to look at their economics and what they're doing. Since I do state that they are communists, and you can disagree with me, but in my view, they are communists. And the market reforms that they have taken to build up their productive forces have risen people out of poverty. Now, granted, there is a growing poverty situation. In fact, outside my apartment complex, they have, I guess you could call, anti-homeless architecture, in which there is a bar in between the benches right outside my apartments to keep the homeless people from sleeping there. Even to a point where we also have a little keypad to keep now homeless residents who have been evicted during the coronavirus out, and that keypad changes every now and then. So what do we do? The question should be, what should our economics be if and when and after a proletarian revolution occurs? Should we adopt some of China's market socialist reforms in order to build up our deindustrialized society, or should we take a more, I guess you could say, Stalinist approach to everything and do 5-year plans and immediate state controlling? This is something that needs to be investigated. Like Mao said, we need to investigate. We also need to learn some of the terrible mistakes. Oh boy, did China make some mistakes. To conclude, what I'm getting at is that we need to discuss China to learn about it. We need to investigate it. Not so much apply everything that is China to New America, but to instead figure out from the Chinese experience, and to a certain extent the Soviet experience, of their failings and their successes, and how we can develop that to our material and social conditions. B-Level, I hope this has answered your question, and as always, red salute, comrades.
Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and to hit that bell button. Also, don't forget to check out my bookstore and my Patreon in the description. Thank you for watching. See you next time.